Hello internet, and today's video is going to be my November book haul. I don't have much time to film, and luckily enough I didn't buy a lot of books this month, so this should be pretty short, and hopefully I can get this edited and up there before the end of November, because Lord knows I'm really bad at time management at the moment. So you'll see this when you see this. Hopefully that'll be soon. So this month, again, I didn't buy a lot of books, so this is pretty short. However, this is the month where my pettiness over book covers came into play. So I ordered 3 books from the UK so I could get the UK edition because I absolutely hate the American edition. Therefore, I will never read these books unless they are in the pretty version. So let's get started with those. So the first book that I bought was actually a rebuy, and that is A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I bought this version on a whim because I saw it at the store. As you can see, it is not the most beautiful cover. And then I learned this cover exists, and I ordered it as soon as I could. So this cover will probably be gifted to someone just so that they can read the story, and then this cover is the one that I'm keeping because it's obviously glorious. On that same vein, I found out that there was a second book to the series, and Becky Chambers wrote this one, which is A Closed and Comet Orbit. This is the second book in the Wayfire series, which goes along with A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. There is a third book coming out. I just figured out this was a series. I was so in love with the first one, so of course I ordered the second one, and of course I was only ever going to get the UK edition because now I knew I had a choice, and I was definitely getting the prettier version. Next, we have a book that very specifically I have refused to read, even though it sounds like something I will truly love, and that is Nevernight by J. Kristoff. This again is the UK edition. I refused to read this before because I would only ever see the American edition. Over here, I think that is the ugliest cover. It reminds me of like some weird cult thing. I don't like it at all. I think it's horrible. So I didn't want to read this series, but then I got this version and I'm like, now I can read it. So as far as I'm aware, this is about a girl and she goes to like a special school, like an assassin school of some sort of like thing, and it's called the church, and it's gonna be like really weird about learning how to be an assassin, and it's gonna take place in like a boarding school situation, and those are all things that I tend to enjoy, and hopefully she actually murders someone so that I can like be amazed by her murdering powers. I don't know, but I am excited to read this now that I have this version, which is obviously superior to the hideous American version, which I don't know why they created it. I hate that cover so much. It just, it makes me feel bad. The next book is one that I've mentioned before if you follow me on Instagram. It's what I read right before Tome Topple as soon as I got it because I was so excited for it. And that is The Tiger's Daughter by K. Arsenault Rivera. And I was enthusiastic about this book for several reasons. I've just finished reading it this month. I finished it as soon as I got it. And this one takes place in a Mongol empire sort of society. So we learn about the Mongols, and then we learn about what would become Japan and the Japanese, and there are 2 girls. One is basically the future leader of the Mongol people, and then one is the future empress for what is the Japanese people, and those 2 are connected by destiny, and they end up being like lovers and partners, and this story just follows them from childhood forward. It has a very interesting perspective for the way that they tell you this story. It's told in a kind of letter. So it is the girl called the Tiger's Daughter, who is the one from Mongol descent, and she is writing a letter to her lover, reminding her lover of her past, how they got there, all of these things. So it's told as one person issuing another. So a lot of times we get a lot of yous because she's directly telling the Empress like, hey, do you remember this occasion? But sometimes we have like this weird mix of third person. I thought it was a magnificent way to tell the story, and I'm really interested to see if in the second book they do the same thing, but in the case of the Empress, directing her words towards the Mongol chief woman. So either way, I really love this book. Was fabulous time, so good, and I'm glad that I bought it this month. The next book that I bought is Into the Bright Unknown by Rae Carson. I read her Girl of Fire and Thorns trilogy when I was first starting this booktube channel, and I was first buying books in mass amounts once again, instead of relying on ebooks and fanfiction and webtoons, but buying novels again. And I absolutely loved that trilogy. I binge read it, and so I decided when I heard about her next series, this being the Gold Sears series, I would buy all of the books first. Even if I didn't like them, I still wanted to support her as an author. So this is the third book in the Gold Sear trilogy, and I finally have the whole trilogy. So I'm just waiting for a weekend in which I can be free and just binge read the whole thing and see if she has improved in her writing, if it's still as good as what I remember Girl of Fire and Thorns being. Next we have a spontaneous buy. Once again, you'll know this if you follow my Instagram stories, but this is Renegade by Marissa Meyer. I saw it at Walmart and was like, why not buy it? I keep hearing people talk about it, and I am very easily pressured into buying books. That is no surprise to anyone. You don't really have to convince me. So Renegades is sort of an X-Men situation. There is one group called the Renegades and one group called the Anarchists. Basically think of the Renegades as Xavier's team, and think of the Anarchists as Magneto's side. And basically, this is the premise of Magneto actually, one, destroyed all the government systems, and now the world is kind of at a low point because humans can be very immoral creatures. So the Renegades came in, are trying to rebuild society, but there are a lot of problems going on. I'm not yet finished with it, but I'm really liking where it's going. I like the moral implications, and I really like this cover. I'm kind of deliberating whether or not I want to go to Target and get that exclusive Target edition that has that little print on the hardcover beneath the jacket, but I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna wait and finish to see what I like about the end of this book and whether or not I really love it to spend some more money on a book where I already have one version of the book. Like, you know, plus there's no Targets really close by, so I'd actually have to travel to get this book. So I'm not quite sure if I'm ready for that yet, but if I finish it and I really love it, I probably will do it just so I can get the exclusive edition, right? I'm not above that, right? The next two books go along with fairy tale themes, and we have the complete Grimm's Fairy Tales, and I bought this because I really love the green colors, and I don't have a complete copy of the Grimm's Fairy Tales. I do have a copy of Grimm's Fairy Tales, which is rather thick, but I don't think that is a complete edition. So I saw this. It was fairly cheap. It was like $7 at Barnes & Noble, and I was like, why not? So I bought it as soon as I saw it, and it's just gonna go on my shelves. Like, I keep telling you guys, I really love fairy tale stories. I really enjoy Grimm fairy tales in particular because I love, like, the hope at the end of it, sort of like the happy ending, but it's not really happy because some morbid stuff just happened to you. So I grew up reading them. I definitely wanted a copy, and I bought one. And then the last book on this list is going to be The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. Now, this was not one that I was going to buy in store. I ended up buying it at Barnes & Noble because it is signed. So this is one of those Barnes & Noble editions that have signing, and I didn't even know that was going on until later. I checked Instagram and I saw Leigh Bardugo was like, go to Barnes & Noble and get a signed edition, because they do not have these advertised in store. Like, I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, I've seen that on Bookstagram, picked it up, and happened to pick up the one that was autographed. And then when I picked up the next one, the next like dozen of them that were on the shelves had no autographs. So I don't know why Barnes & Noble isn't advertising they have signed copies, especially in other sections they do advertise signed copies by authors. So I'm not quite sure why this book in particular wasn't signed, advertised as signed, but I bought it simply because it had the signature, so I figured I might as well pay the extra price to buy it in store with the signature. And that extra $8 that I'm paying to buy it in store, that's just the price of her signing a book, right? Like, that's how I argued it in my head so that I could buy it in store instead of going with the obviously smarter deal of waiting, buying it online for like $8 cheaper. Either way, I own the book now. I have also read this one. This is a collection of fairy tales by Lee Bardugo's own creation that have to do something with the Grishaverse. So basically the premise for this is the kids that exist in the Grishaverse would have heard these fairy tales as a child. These were the fairy tales that circulated around in their world. I really, really love the premise, and I really, really love what she did with her fairy tales, how she reinvented old concepts, how she added in, and how if you're familiar with the Grishaverse, you could definitely see the cultures that you've witnessed in those past novels detailed and specified in the fairy tales. Yes, that's what I was going to say. So, loved it so much. So, that is the last book that I bought. As you can tell, this was not the biggest haul in the world, especially compared to some of my other hauls. I might have a larger haul in December. Simply, I'm planning to go to the bookstore this weekend, which falls into the December category, to pick up some gifts, and because I like the bookstore and I want to go to the one closest to me before I go back home for the holidays. And then I'll probably get books over the holidays because there is a bookstore not 10 minutes from my house back home, so I always end up going and spending a lot of money there. So maybe in December you guys will see maybe a 2-part book haul if everything goes to plan. I'm not sure. Just like keep that in the back of your head. It's a possibility. And I hope that you liked all the books that I have here. If you've read any of these books, if you too are with me where you'll be petty and not read a book and refuse to read a book until you find the perfect edition for your shelves, comment down below and let me know, or thumbs up this video to signify that there are other people like me out there who are just that petty. If you like what you're seeing here and you want to continue seeing more, click all those bunnies down below, and goodbye, internet.